Good morning. Good morning. It's Friday. Fantastic. So I wanted to jump on here because today is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Over the years of me training and training other people, let me go live on my Instagram too. Sorry about that. So my journey has been varied. Obviously, I talk about it a little bit. If you haven't heard my story before, I've talked about how as a 12-year-old kid being bullied for the size of her butt, I had a little bit of a body image issue. So if any of you think that I've always been this way, or I don't understand, I absolutely do understand in some instances. I may or may not have been what some would consider obese at this time. Hey, Andrea, what's going on? But I may not have been what some may have considered obese. And that's one thing that I want to say to you is emphasize that whatever level you're at, sometimes our body image is designed and based on our journey. So my journey has been varied, of course, and I put my story out there quite a few times, but I'll keep talking to you about it. But today we wanted to talk about, I talked about my gummy bear issue and how it kind of manifested from emotions, and it continued throughout my life with my emotional upheavals, and it became a habit that I was not understanding was a habit that wasn't serving me. So I had to kind of drill it down, get curious, as opposed to torturing myself. And I had to make a decision, what is this doing to me and how do I want to change that? So being curious about the things that you do, how it impacts your life, how it impacts your biology. I talked about biology for sure. Some of us may not realize what we are doing as far as exercise could be impacting our biology. And it could be because we believe something about that exercise that we have to do or you should do. The unfortunate part about it is that not everyone is designed the same. So as you progress and try to get healthy, sometimes the backlash is our own mental thoughts about getting healthy. So I'm going to try my best not to say a lot of ums because I know I've been doing that. So bear with me, guys. I'm just bringing you from my family room. Again, I say I'll check myself on that. I'll work on that. Anyways, so today I wanted to talk about cardio. I posted my video from the other day, and I also posted a quote from Jill Coleman, has been one of my mentors and one of my friend in the process of getting healthy myself. And she's kind of been that piece to give me some clarity around some of the things as far as my food habits, my exercise habits, all those things, and also my mental habits, my mindset that kind of have triggered me to feel less than or whatever. And in that process, the unfortunate part about it is that I had to go through a little bit of struggle and pain to come to the conclusions that I've come to. The realization of talking to other women and seeing their struggles and seeing myself in their struggle has helped me kind of figure out what's a good path and what's a good message and how should I be speaking to people as a fitness professional in this world. We all see the ads out there that say, do more cardio, do tons of cardio, do hour and a half of cardio. How many of the fitness professionals that do hour and a half to 2 hours, 2-a-days, those kinds of things. And that inspires us, but it also can leave us feeling like we're not doing enough and we have to do more and all those other things. So what is this about cardio that may or may not be beneficial to you, and what is it about it that might be a detriment, that may hinder your results, that may be exhausting you or leaving you hungry and tired and you just are not yourself, craving all kinds of foods? What is it about cardio that can do that to you? The one thing I want to say to you is that exercise is beneficial. If you are currently not exercising, I encourage you to go find some exercise. However, I also encourage you to find exercise that will leave you energized, that will leave you feeling better than you did before, and also encourage you to find something that's going to be challenging, but not to the point of punishment. And that's where the mental part comes in when it comes to cardiovascular versus strength training. Of course, I absolutely adore strength training. I have to be honest. So I'm a little biased when it comes to that. I absolutely adore strength training. That has been my go-to, even from the time where my mom had these white, big plastic weights. I would use them in the living room, and it absolutely made me feel inspired, empowered. Even though they were 3-pound weights, I knew I was doing something for my body. And hey, Erica, so doing something for my body as far as strength training. But again, I always heard those messages that were told to me by a lot of people. And again, it could have been your parents, it could have been, your significant other, it could be your friends, whatever. But often for women, personally, cardiovascular exercise has been the predominant exercise that we're told is the best for us. And if you've seen the recent studies or seen the recent research about that, they're finding that that's not necessarily true. So what do we do? I mean, we've been doing, if you love running, awesome, go for it. However, if you're finding that your physique is not the way you want it, if you're not feeling good, if you're hungry, if your energy sucks, if you're craving all kinds of foods because you're forcing yourself to do cardio, then there might be some lesson in that. There might be some, encouragement, or maybe something about that could teach you about yourself versus trying to join the next running group, trying to join the next run, trying to do the next 5K, Broad Street run, whatever. Hey, Holly J. So those are the things you want to think about when it comes to cardiovascular exercise. So let me tell you a little bit about my journey and tell you a little bit about what I discovered about myself personally and what I've been discovering by coaching other clients in our gym. Again, I want to put a disclaimer out there. I do not want to discourage you from not exercising. I'm just telling you that some exercise, overdoing the exercise, even strength training, can be a detriment to your health. So I'm just talking on the side of my own journey when it came to cardiovascular exercise and how it impacted me biologically and how it impacted my overall hunger, energy, and cravings. So that's a big key. So hunger, energy, and cravings, we may or may not realize, could be an indicator that maybe we're not eating enough, maybe we're torturing ourselves with our exercise, or we might not be eating the right things. So those are the things you want to think about. But so let's get back to a little bit about my Broad Street run. As some of you may know, I used to run a boot camp. We ran the boot camp, Great Valley Adventure Boot Camp. I ran a boot camp in Westchester and also in Phoenixville. And a group of my boot campers in Westchester wanted to train for the Broad Street Run. And I felt like that's a great thing to do. Let's go ahead and start training for the Broad Street Run. I absolutely think that's a great thing a goal, something to work towards. So as a group, we all decided we were going to train together. Obviously, as the coach, I am not a good runner. I was stepping back and allowing someone else who was a better runner than me to kind of coach us. I also was able to reach out to some coaches, running coaches, that gave us kind of a cadence when it came to how to train for the Broad Street Run. And if you don't know the Broad Street Run, it's a 10-miler. So I have barely run 5K. So running a 10-miler was, for me, it was like, okay, I can do this. And a lot of the ladies in our boot camp said, yeah, it's an easier run because it's flat. So again, it's still 10 miles. So so we started our training. The Broad Street Run's coming up in May, but we started our training around January. We started thinking about it in December, and we started our training in January, February, when it started to get a little bit warmer out. Of course, it was still cold, but had to go through the snow and stuff like that. So we started training. And as we were training, as a group, we did our individual runs during the week, and then we would go for our long runs on the weekend. So this is what we did on a regular basis. So I had to tone down my strength training at that point. I felt like there was something, I wanted to kind of do something different anyway. So I felt like, well, let me just try this and see how I feel. I'm not a huge runner, not a big fan of running, but let's try this. Why not? It's something that I want to challenge myself. I'm the kind of person, I kind of need goals and challenges. So we continued our training throughout the months. February, March, April rolled around. By the end of our training, to be completely honest, I was the last one to be out there running. So that goes to show you that possibly it was a little bit, a lot of people kind of dropped off and didn't necessarily have the ability to stay on board, which is perfectly fine. I understood that, their life, life circumstances. Being the determined person that I am, I was like, I'm going to follow this. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to quit. If I put something out there, if I tell people I'm going to support them, I'm going to do this. So that could be obviously a detriment and a bonus for me, because I'm a bull in a china shop, and I will keep going whether it hurts or not. So as I trained, I noticed my eating habits changed significantly. At the time, I wasn't as aware as I had been prior to that. Given the fact that I had a lot of hormonal issues throughout my my younger years, in my 20s, I was diagnosed with hypothyroid and fibromyalgia. So in my 30s, I decided, 30s or 40, I was in my 40s at that point, yeah. So in my 30s, I kind of went up and down with my thyroid again, and then back in my 40s, this is when I decided to run for the Broad Street, not realizing that running the Broad Street and training for the Broad Street may have been triggering my hormonal issues even more so. So constantly going out and running and beating myself up doing that, it kind of affected me hormonally. I got really hungry, so of course I'm going to eat more carbs, because that's what they tell you to do. The carbs I was choosing were gummies. Again, we go back to that story of gummies. Remember gummies? So, but they were giving me nutrients, right? Those gummies that they provide for you, the gels and all this other stuff. I'm like, well, I've got to have those, because that's going to help with my endurance, and that's going to keep me hydrated, and all these fun things they tell you about them. However, I was eating them probably on a most obsessive basis. So as I was progressing with my training, I was justifying my eating, feeling more lethargic as I went, forcing myself to go out for my runs, doing all those things, craving all kinds of foods, feeling lethargic, not feeling myself, feeling as if it's just because I'm training. I've never run this much. I'm just not used to it. Not realizing that I was eating the things that were trying to give me more energy. All those things were happening for me. I ran the Broad Street. That day, I gave myself a treat and a reward. We went for a burger afterwards. I actually had run so much that I lost my big toe toenail. It came off, and it didn't grow back for several months. I had to actually rip it off. But anyways, that's another story. So I trained for the Broad Street. I'm like, okay, I passed the test. I can run. I proved to myself I can run. Then what happened was I had to look myself in the mirror and say, wow, Jen, you've kind of gained a significant amount of weight. You're gaining it mostly in your thighs and your hips and your belly. What's going on here? And I thought, well, I was exercising. I don't know the big deal. Maybe I just need to, it's because I was eating a little too much. Okay, whatever. So I stopped running as much. But then I had another set of clients that wanted to train for a half marathon. Sure, I'll do it. I'm all about encouraging and coaching. I'm all about setting good goals. If I can be a good coach, I can help be a part of that process. So let's run together. Needless to say, I had to quit. And I had to quit. I was feeling oh so terribly. I was gaining more weight. My knees were killing me. The bottom of my feet were killing me. I was pretty much not myself at all. And I didn't know personally what was happening. I had to drill down to what was happening. And that's when I discovered, at that point, I think around that time is when we discovered, actually Mike, he's always buying the books and I read them all, but we discovered Metabolic Effect. And Metabolic Effect taught me a little bit about what cardio was doing to, that extensive endurance style cardio was doing to my hormones. I already have a thyroid issue. I already know I'm prone to that. So I was unaware that cardio could do that to my system. It could switch the shift on me and actually put me in a position where I'm actually hurting myself versus helping myself by exercising. And that seemed crazy to me. Exercise is supposed to be good for you. How many women out there are running marathons? How many women out there are doing fantastic and they look great? Why am I the issue? Why is it happening to me? What's wrong with me? And with that, I had to start talking to a lot of women, and I started realizing, much like myself, they were struggling with it too. They felt like every time they would go for a longer run, that they felt hungrier. They didn't understand, so they'd go for longer and longer and longer runs, or they'd go to the gym and do the elliptical, or do something and they have to spend more time. The first part of their working out, it felt like they had some results, but in the long run, as they progressed, they had to keep doing more and doing more. And it triggered in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, this is taking me back to my first days in bodybuilding, how as I was getting closer and closer to my shows, unbeknownst to myself, my coach, which was an awesome coach, unaware of the fact that it was causing a hormonal issue with me, but my coach encouraged me to do 2 hours of cardio a day. So I had to fit that cardio. I do an hour in the morning and an hour at night. And that's when I was like, hindsight 2020, here I am again doing excessive amount. I'm beating myself up doing this cardio, and it's impacting my body in a way that's detrimental. And so when I finished bodybuilding, I realized excessive amount of cardio was the only way I thought I had to get to my goal, reduce my calories, get to my goal, excessive amount of cardio. That's what I thought. Then I started training for the running and realized maybe that's not necessarily true. I did the Broad Street. I ate horribly, couldn't control my eating. So I kind of put many things together. So all the dots started coming together. And when I started training for the marathon, the half marathon, I started adjusting my eating and saying, well, okay, Jen, let's take back those the carbs a little bit, and let's kind of work on getting a little healthier based on more protein, like I did with bodybuilding. Well, again, we'll talk later about the bodybuilding diet that was horrible. So the fact that I started putting 2 and 2 together, I started talking to other women, I started researching, and then we got this book, Metabolic Effect, and it started talking about how your hormones can be impacted by the type of exercises that you do. And it can vary based on where you are, your stress level, all these things. And the fact that I was in my 40s and I was pushing myself to do something that my body wasn't used to doing, and also that my body probably couldn't handle on a long-term basis, I had to realize that, okay, what is happening here? And what told me what was happening was my hunger, energy, and cravings. Those are the 3 things. Those were the 3 things that were my indicator. They were like red flags. They were the things that told me that, oh my gosh, if I pay attention to when I'm like excessively hungry, like to the point of starvation, that means that my hormones are out of whack. If I am excessively tired, and not normal tired, this is like walking around like a zombie, lethargic, feel that sleepiness in the back of your eyes, that kind of tired, just bone tired. And if I'm craving foods that like, not that I shouldn't be, but craving foods to the point of like obsessively going into the cabinet and eating the gummies again. Wow. It was really eye-opening for me that I was doing too much cardio, and I needed to get back to my strength training. I had to tone down the impact on my body and understand that. So I went into, and that's when I started doing a little bit more of what we call as the HIIT training, or the quick spurts. I did sprints, that kind of thing. But again, that taught me something about myself as well. And being the big investigator that I am, and it also taught me about other people. So not all of us have the same journey or the same metabolic system, everything. The challenge for you is listening to yourself and letting whoever it is that's coaching you, or just listening to yourself and making note of it, getting curious about it, and knowing what it is that's impacting your eating habits, your overall energy, and your overall demeanor in life. Exercise is a great tool, but if you do too much of one thing over another, you can eventually impact your hormones in a negative way. Again, as I'm growing older, and this is one thing I want to encourage all of you to do, is start looking into it. Maybe some of you are not at the same age I am. I am close to turning 50. So I know that my body is at a stage where it wants to start slowing down a little bit. Of course, I'm not going to let it. So I'm trying to pick exercises, foods, habits, all these things that are going to give me a long-term life, that's going to give me on the long haul. I'm looking for the long game now. So all those little lessons I had throughout my life. So running the Broad Street, check, did it. Okay, I realized that's not necessarily what I want to ever do again, unless of course I know that it's going to impact me in a way that's going to be negative. Maybe one day I'll choose to do something like that, but to be completely honest, I really don't have it on my radar. It's like someone chooses to jump out of an airplane. Some of us choose not to jump out of an airplane. That's not something on my bucket list, but I've already checked it off. But what I want to say to all of you is that if you are struggling with, if you feel like you're just not on the right path, you feel like you have to punish yourself with exercise, maybe you're feeling as if you have to do 2 hours of cardio in order to get the results you want. Maybe you're feeling as if, much like myself, you didn't realize the impact that the exercise was having on you negatively. And there's many aspects of what you're doing that could impact your longevity as well for the long haul. Look, I get it. We all want to look good. We all want to look good because that's the way society is built. It's shoved in our face every day. But if you can drive yourself towards feeling good, the side effect is looking good. So everything, hey Susie, so everything that you want to determine, so I encourage all of you to pick something that's going to help you feel good first. I should have known. I was running and I hated it. I felt awful the whole time. Granted, I also was craving foods like crazy. I was craving all kinds of things that I felt like, I don't understand. Like, I've eaten enough. Why do I feel like I need to eat more? I was trying, like all these things were happening to me. I was just not myself. And I realized that, oh my gosh, it's like this was impacting me in a negative way, not realizing it, because I was determined to run 10 miles. It taught me a lot. I don't regret it for sure. I do enjoy the fact that I learned something from it. So when I started talking to a lot of my female clients, specifically, I want to talk about females because I am a female, but specifically talk to my female clients. A lot of my female clients felt as though running was their thing. It was their high. I totally understand. That is where you get your endorphins. And there's a lot of good information out there that says when you can push yourself past a certain limit, it can give you that high, that runner's high. But personally, it never happened for me. So my high comes from my weightlifting. Here's the thing. If you are running for the sake of enjoyment and spirituality, that's cool. But if you're running to try to change your physique and feel better, and you just keep feeling worse, I encourage you to find another way to exercise, because not all exercise is the best for you, specifically for your hormones as a female. There's tons of research out there that if you overextend and do too much cardio, it can have a negative impact, especially for women. It can have a major negative impact. Now, disclaimer here, not everyone has the same body, not everyone has the same effect of exercise on them. However, in my own experience with the females that I've worked with, I've found the more the women strength train. Now, this is not beating yourself up with weights, not having to do PRs and all this HIIT style training. God love you, go for it. What I'm saying to you is methodical, good practice strength training. That helps you. That will give you the benefit that you need on the long haul, because you're building the muscle that's going to keep you feeling younger. It's going to help you with a lot of your hormones. It's going to keep that system running the way it needs to. Our bodies are designed perfectly the way they are. They're not against you. But if you're doing something that's causing it to disrupt, if it's disrupting your system to work efficiently, then I encourage you to kind of dig down deep and see what it is you're doing that might be impacting that. And if you are a cardio queen, per se, if you feel like that's your thing, that's what you want to do, but you're still feeling crappy, you're gaining weight, you have excessive amount of cravings, if you're feeling like depleted all the time, you feel like you're gaining weights in the areas that you don't want to, and you're just not feeling yourself, then I encourage you to explore other options when it comes to exercise. Cardio may not be your friend. Maybe you take some time away from the cardio. I don't want to say to you that you have to completely quit cardio. If that's your, if that's your time of spirituality, cool. Maybe there's some other things you can do to kind of keep that high going in you, but also kind of reduce the effect it's having on you hormonally. I love talking about this stuff. This stuff is like one of those things that I adore. Again, my story is my story. I don't know if anyone has a similar story, and I don't think it's necessary that you have to compare your story to mine. What I encourage you to do is go back into what it is you're feeling about yourself, your running, your cardio, your type of exercise. Exercise is wonderful. Exercising is really key. However, if you're exercising and you're punishing yourself or rewarding yourself with exercise, that in and of itself can be a detriment. And also, if you continue to exercise while you're feeling hurt, injured, stressed out, all those other things, you might find that the exercise you're doing may not be the right exercise for you at this moment. So again, it's all about learning about yourself, learning about what it is that could be impacting you, your metabolism. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and I listen to tons of podcasts. Now that I have no time to read, because, oh my God, I have to sit and read, I listen to podcasts and I listen to audiobooks. But I was listening to a podcast yesterday about metabolic flexibility. It's a new thing that they're talking about, but basically, because if we talk about people having broken metabolism, all this other stuff, that's not really what I want to encourage you to think about. You're not broken. It's working the best it can based on the information that you're giving it. So working on your metabolism is helpful. Being aware of what your hormones are doing is really helpful, and finding a way to kind of balance yourself out, your metabolism will go along with it. Hey, Melanie, how are you? So if you have a chance, comment down here. I'm so glad that you guys jumped on here today. I want to keep these conversations going. I will work on my ums. I will work on that for sure. But I appreciate you guys jumping on here. Any questions or concerns you feel like this resonates with you? If this resonates, you feel like you want to offer this up or share this with somebody that you know that might be struggling with their exercise. You might feel they might be beating themselves up with the types of exercises they're doing. I'd love to have them share that with them, jump on board, keep the comments coming. I'm going to keep talking about this, but again, the other thing that I want to talk about here, and this is something that I've been doing with Mike, is how this craziness that we feel around food, how this craziness that we're feeling around ourselves can impact our relationships as well. There is a moment when you're feeling not yourself. If you feel like you're beating yourself with exercise, you hate your world around you, you hate the people that are in your world, it could potentially be a biological impact that's occurring in your body. And if you're doing all these things as far as quote unquote exercise right, following the meal plan, all this other stuff, take a step back and see if maybe you may not be doing what's right for you at this moment in time in your life, and be cognizant of how it's impacting your relationships and the people around you, your loved ones especially. All right, guys, go out there, have a fantastic Friday. I plan on jumping on here more often than not. If you have a subject that you guys want to talk about, something that you have a question about, feel free to post it on the comments. I love having you jump on here with me. I love getting these conversations going because I really do. This is a passion of mine. This is not just a passion, it's a purpose. I want to bring that message out to you. Again, I am not a doctor, so any type of health issue that you feel you have, I encourage you to go see your doctor or find the doctor that's going to listen to you if you're feeling like you're not getting the answers that you need. So thanks so much. We will be jumping back on board, myself, potentially with Mike soon enough, but in the next couple days. Be looking for me more often than not. Thanks, guys.